Bradley Beal is now on the Phoenix Suns. This was a pretty big trade, a blockbuster trade. The internet went crazy. Chris Paul on the Wizards. However, he's going to be rerouted. It looks like the Lakers and Clippers, 2 LA teams, could be involved. I'll talk about that a little bit later in the topic. But the Wizards decided to get off Bradley Beal. In response, this is what the trade basically is. It's Bradley Beal, Jordan Goodman, and Isaiah Todd to the Suns for Chris Paul, Landry Shamet, multiple second-round picks, and a first-round pick swap. Pretty good trade. For who, though? Who would you say won this trade? Me, personally, I think the Suns won this trade. Because think about what Chris Paul has become. I uploaded a YouTube short recently about it. I believe today I even did it a couple minutes before the show. I said basically Chris Paul is a 38-year-old point guard who can still distribute very well, but younger Chris Paul actually had a great mid-range shot and wasn't as injury-prone as he is now. Chris Paul in the playoffs, you don't really see him. If you do, he generally does not make it that far, and God forbid he makes the finals, his team has no chance of winning it. Go see the Bucks-Suns final. Chris Paul, point guard, he has very, very bad shooting nights. Very poor shooting nights. But can he still distribute along with the best of them? 100%. But I want to talk about the Suns before I jump into Chris Paul. So now I believe, personally from my perspective, now the Phoenix Suns probably are close to being a top team in the NBA. Obviously, because this is how it should work, the Denver Nuggets should still be number 1. They just won the championship. The Heat, however, I don't think you can give 2. Now, they did make the finals, but it was a crazy run and got absolutely demolished in the finals. I think right now, with Bradley Beal, KD, and Devin Booker, you probably have a top 3 team in the NBA right now. However, there's a big asterisk on the Suns, which we might have seen actually last year. They didn't really solve their problem that we saw in the playoffs. Because even with Chris Paul out there against the Nuggets still demolished them. They just swept the floor with them. It was embarrassing. It wasn't until Chris Paul and KD combined for 70+ in Game 3 and 4 that they had an opportunity of winning those games. The problem with the Suns, and I was watching Colin Cowherd earlier talk about this, and I couldn't disagree more. He mentioned that this is a great idea. Because who talks about the bench? Well, Mr. Cowherd, a lot of people out there, the Phoenix Suns in that series had no bench. They had no one outside of KD and Devin Booker. DeAndre Ayton was definitely a shell of himself. He was arguing with the head coach last year, Monty Williams. Somehow he stays on the team, and now he's gone, basically. It just in that playoff series, it's like he wasn't even there. So the problems still exist with the Suns. I don't think DeAndre Ayton is going to come back and be a top center in the league or near the top of the league at the center position. I just don't believe that because where have we seen it happen so far? So DeAndre Ayton, he could be 1 foot out the door. Will Frank Vogel, I believe there's who are the Suns' new head coaches, will he sort of reinvigorate DeAndre Ayton and be like, let's go, we got this? I don't think so. So the problem is your bench is still pretty bad. So what happens, right? You're still top heavy. You haven't solved your problem that you found in the playoffs. Because think about what role players and bench players did for the Denver Nuggets. I think the bench is very, very important. Now, it's not the star of your team, but if you have guys like Bruce Brown, who in Game 4, along with Aaron Gordon, won them that game, not only Bruce Brown, but Christian Braun putting in 110% effort. He had very, very valuable minutes throughout those NBA Finals games. Jeff Green had solid minutes. Your bench actually matters because when your stars dip, when Nikola Jokic or Jamal Murray get in foul trouble or turnover issues or can't score or hit a shot, it's your bench players and your other starters who aren't as good as your superstar players. They need to step up. And in the Nuggets case, Bruce Brown, Jeff Green, Christian Braun, they all stepped up. Aaron Gordon had a phenomenal game in Game 4. I believe he dropped 27 and Bruce Brown dropped 25. But your bench players actually matter. So while if we're talking about the top of the league, your top players, if we're going top players versus top players throughout the league, I believe the Phoenix Suns are up there because you have KD, who right now probably is a top 10 NBA player currently. I think that's hands down. You could argue top 5 probably. You have Devin Booker, who is probably a top 20 player, at least top 15, and Bradley Beal, who is a very, very talented player. I think there are about 20 other guys better than Bradley Beal. I don't have a list in front of me, but off the top of my head, I could probably name 20 or 21 names. I won't bore you with it, though. I'll make a list probably sometime later. However, Bradley Beal is still a great player, and his value was actually undermined because he was playing for the Washington Wizards, a team who has been terrible for years. They tried to make the John Wall thing work with Bradley Beal. It didn't. Bradley Beal was kind of just alone on an island with the Wizards. I'm happy they finally got off of him, respect him a little bit, say, hey, you were great for us. Now you could actually go compete for a title because the Wizards weren't even close to competing for a title. So the Suns, once again, if we're talking about top players in the league, top groups of the league, yes, the Suns are up there. But the Suns still haven't fixed the problem they found in the playoffs. They have no one to slow down Jokic. They have no one to slow down any big men. Because guess what? Your big men are terrible. DeAndre Ayton isn't even really a center. He's a very, very soft player, and he was basically gone throughout that Nuggets series. So your problems still exist. Can Bradley Beal and KD and Booker, if they stay healthy, can they carry you through a playoff series? They'll have to because your bench players aren't there. And guess what? You don't have a distributor. So we'll see just how great the Suns be. But if they're healthy, I think they'll still be a playoff team regardless. But when it comes down to it, if you play a team that can one-for-one match or closely match your star players, it's your role players and bench players that need to step up. And in the Suns-Nuggets series, we saw that the Phoenix Suns did not have the utility, did not have the prowess of their bench to compete against the Nuggets. So your problems still exist. And so, guess what? You're probably going to be in the same boat next year as you were this past year. We will see. Now about Chris Paul. So Chris Paul has been linked to 2 teams. 2 teams have reportedly come out and said that they're interested in signing the future Hall of Fame guard. And that's the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Now Chris Paul is friends with LeBron James, and the Clippers, I think, need him more. Because think about it. Russell Westbrook was your distributor for the Clippers. They tried to have Paul George do it. They tried to have Kawhi do it. You never really had a true point guard for the Los Angeles Clippers. Chris Paul gives you that. And I brought this up recently, and I'm going to say it again. Probably now the 2 best options are the Clippers and the Boston Celtics. Those are the 2 teams that make the most sense for Chris Paul. Because they both need distributors. They both have 2 great players who could score and play pretty good defense. Chris Paul would be joining other Kawhi Leonard and Paul George for a Clippers reunion, which that'll be interesting. That's a good storyline. That's a good headline. And he could also be joining Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who we know what they are. Now, Jaylen Brown has a turnover issue, and he can't dribble or handle with his left hand. You've all seen the clips on Twitter, I'm sure. And Jason Tatum has his off moments. But the Clippers are not without any, scares at all. Kawhi Leonard doesn't play. He's hurt all the time. Paul George, he's been dealing with some injuries. But both teams, when healthy, I think they're some of the best teams and some of the best options for Chris Paul. To me, personally, I think the Celtics make the most sense. They are probably the closest to an NBA championship, even amongst the 3 of them, the Lakers, Clippers, or the Celtics. The Clippers are probably number 2, and the Lakers, AD, we don't know his situation or how healthy he could stay. LeBron is dealing with some injuries, and they also have Austin Reeves, who I don't know. I think Austin Reeves actually earned himself a starting spot. I don't think a lot of people have thought that and agree with me on that, but that's just what I think. So for me, Chris Paul teaming up with Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, for me, makes the most sense. Both teams need a distributor, and for the past 2 years, that's what the Celtics have looked for. A distributor. Marcus Smart is not a distributor. They need someone who can get the ball out of Jason Tatum's hands, bringing the ball up the court, get it out of Jaylen Brown's hands, because guess what? He ain't got no hands, and give it to someone who could set up, have Jason Tatum be the spot-up shooter that he's really good at being, have Jaylen Brown dish to him and hope he could drive and not lose the ball, and let Marcus Smart play really good defense and at times hit a clutch three. That's what the Celtics should do. Or you can go to the Clippers with a Kawhi Leonard, who when he's healthy has his moments, but recently hasn't been healthy really at all, and Paul George, who is dealing with an injury, and when he does play is a very good player. Who would you rather go to? For me, it would be the Celtics, because that makes the most sense to me. It does look like he will be rerouted. I think the Wizards are not going to retain Chris Paul. They're going to respect him and say, you know what, go compete for a contender. We're not really going to, give you that opportunity. So, for me, Chris Paul of the Celtics makes the most sense. I've talked about it before. The Clippers are interesting, and the Lakers, I don't think you want to team up with a buddy. In the NBA, that really doesn't work. Look at the Nets. With KD and Kyrie, LeBron left D Wade, Kyrie left LeBron. Teaming up with a buddy doesn't really work in the NBA. So, I would say team up with the best team that gives you an opportunity to win a championship, and I would say that is the Boston Celtics. Out of the teams that have publicly, or not, the Celtics haven't, but out of the teams that I think fit the best and have the most likely chance at signing you, that would probably be the Boston Celtics. Or, the Clippers are interesting. Like I said, they need you. The Lakers, I don't think you should join the Lakers personally, but we will see. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, if you want to check out the full episode, make sure you click the I in the top right-hand corner right now. If you want to listen to this show anywhere you go, make sure you go to anchor.fm/The Harvey Hour or anywhere you get your podcasts.